All right, thank you for staying with us. Public universities may be in for tough times as more lecturers continue to leave in droves rather, to other countries. With the number of students increasing in universities, the ratio of lecturers to students may be too much to bear. Recall that in 2022, the Academic Staff Union of Universities went on an 8-month strike to push their demands. While some were met as conditions to call off the industrial action, others have yet to be addressed till this day. This, according to some lecturers, is pushing them over the edge and worsening the quality of tertiary education in the country. Now, for some lecturers, leaving for better opportunities outside the shores of the country may be the only way out for them if they must operate in better work conditions, get adequate funding, training, and prompt payment of salaries, amongst others. Well, joining us in the studio is a lecturer from the University of Lagos, Dr. Dan Ekere. Good morning. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for
Thank you
having
for
me.
still staying in Nigeria. And that's true. And that's true. We should celebrate. We should celebrate what's left of our lecturers.
I mean, what else do we do? This is our home.
Right.
No other person will do it for us.
Right.
So we'll continue to fight to ensure that the system is actually
Works.
attended to. Yes.
Right. So, but there are some reasons that have been given for this mass movement of lecturers outside the shores of the country. And one of it is the demand, IPPIS. Lecture has been moved on the platform of IPPIS as being part of what is making lecturers leave. Is that really true?
Well, thank you. I do not think that IPPIS will be a major issue for lecturers to leave the shores of Nigeria, even though the court declared IPPIS illegal, that I was actually thinking that by now the government would have addressed that issue. But that's not a major issue, really. Yeah, it's about you looking at your condition of service. I do not think that lecturers are Father Christmas. Yes. The first thing to note is that is a job somebody has decided to engage in order to be alive,
right? To
take care of his or her needs. Now, what is the environment like? The welfare situation of the environment is terrible. It's terrible. At least we are all aware of what the pay structure looks like. A scenario in which a professor at the bar, like you were rightly told, goes on with less than 450,000. I mean.
Oh, you watched that interview?
We are in the system. I don't need interview to know that. So this is the challenge. The system is not well attended to. So apart from the issue of the welfare of those who work in the system, even the environment itself, it's not inspiring. That is why each time ASU talks about, government intervention, it's always a matter of fund education properly. That is not a matter of salary now. Fund the system properly so that there will be facilities. A lot of these things that happen outside the country is because of the environment. You see, it's not as if when our members go out of this country, they are not able to perform. The environment is what actually brings about the level of performance in the system. So when you don't have facilities to work, what do? Then you now talk about the issue of welfare, which is so appalling. A lot of things have actually come by. So at the end of the day, look at the last strike. Lasted for so long. At the end of the day, nothing was done to even address the issues. Rather, government decided that, the way to do it, let's punish these people. As if, the universities don't belong to any particular person. It's for Nigerians. Our children are supposed to be there. Their children are supposed to, though they have resources to send theirs out, but then those are the only universities we have. The ones you are sending them to are not their own. We've seen people complaining here and there. And all that. The resources you spend funding education outside, if you put half of it into the system here, we'll have just a better situation. So the challenge is about the comprehensive package. It's not about IPPIS. Though IPPIS is a nightmare. IPPIS is a terrible system. IPPIS will never inspire anything productive because a scenario in which somebody who is promoted this year there will be no reflection of his pay in the next 3, 4, how many years? I mean, how do you describe that? You call it promotion? The idea is that when you are promoted, you should be paid the salary of the next level.
Reflect on your salaries.
Apart from that, what about the issue of sabbatical? IPPIS is yet to accommodate that. They see it as double salary. Oh, he works in different places. But that is the system. That is the way universities operate all over the world. Why is ours different? Now, today, how many, visiting lecturers do you see from other, parts of the world? How many people are actually flying to Nigeria the way we are, taking off to other places? So these are the issues you look at. So sometimes when you begin to hear universities are being rated, Nigerian universities, are this and that, I mean, it's all a function of what we are putting into the system. Because what you get out of the system will depend on what you put into it. So input will determine output.
All right. Dr. Ekere, we'll come back to you. Let's introduce your speaker at this point, the head of department, public and private, that's public and private, public and international law department. That's the HOD that is at the Nile University, Dr. Sirajo Yakubu. Thank you for hanging on. Yours is a private university setting, but, talking about this syndrome of brain drain across several universities in Nigeria, paint us a picture of how this has impacted academic activities in your domain.
Much for having me today. Actually, I think both private and public institutions are suffering from this drain. However, I noticed that lecturers from public institutions do leave their institutions to come to private universities because the working conditions there are better in terms of the welfare, in terms of remuneration, in terms of even the facilities and even the environment itself. But it is a serious problem for the country, and it is because that we as a country, we are not mindful of the importance of education. Education is the foundation of life. Is the foundation of everything. The teachers are so important that when Katsina College was to be, Katsina Training College was to be established back in the 1920s. 1920s. Then administrator, then DO. I think Sir Clifford mentioned that the college is to train teachers, men who are so honorable, men who could replicate themselves in other people. Teachers that will be, prepared for leadership. So you can see that it is education that forms the foundation of everything. If the educational sector in a country collapses, then everything will collapse. And you can see the effect even in the leadership in the country. A lot of people who are at the helm of affairs today are half-baked because the teachers who are supposed to teach them and the universities and other schools that are supposed to train them have been neglected, especially the public universities. And these public universities are not inferior to private institutions. In fact, the private institutions are getting their resources from the public. All we need to do in Nigeria is that we should organize ourselves. The government should think properly. They should put people in place who can actually promote education, people who are dedicated, people who know the value of education to drive the educational sector. There is need for funding, proper funding. It's, I understand that the government has given autonomy to the universities that they should fund themselves. But unfortunately, I think we should have a rethink. Funding in what sense? What do you mean by funding? Should the universities themselves generate enough revenues to pay salaries and cater for other needs, including the expansions and infrastructure, research, and other things. Because even in the developed countries, where we think that they operate purely on capitalism, they actually take education seriously. Let's take, for example, United Kingdom. If you take England, for example, they used to have an institution called HEFCE. HEFCE means Higher Education Funding Council for England. When it was reorganized, it was disbanded, and two other institutions were created out of that one. And one of the institution is the UK Research and Innovation, which is funding research in such a way that their economy can be sustainable, poverty can be reduced, people will be educated, and every sector of life will be improved. Not only that, when the United Kingdom was in the European Union was funding education, including giving scholarships to their students. They are funding research in universities. And when Brexit happened, when there was sort of confusion in the United Kingdom, the then Prime Minister Theresa May underscored the importance of the educational institutions in the UK. She said that worst comers, they will fall back on the universities for solutions. But in Nigeria, we neglect totally, I would say, because we neglect universities totally. And that was not the case before. We neglect education totally. And that's why lecturers definitely will, anybody who feels that he cannot stay will find a way out for a better life, not just for salary, but even for fulfillment, self-fulfillment.
Right.
Even the working conditions and the environment itself and other things determines your happiness as a teacher.
All right, let's bring the conversation back to the studio now to Dr. Ikere. This matter of funding is generating controversies, especially with regards to the framework, if we are looking at university autonomy. And this matter was brought up by TED Fund Executive Secretary Sonny Echono at a recent convocation ceremony in Enugu, where he said that overdependence on the federal government for funding is what is affecting public universities, and that there should be a change in attitude. They should take the business of education seriously and perhaps work out how they can fund, the universities. I wonder what your perception is. He has touched on this matter, and I need to get your perspective on this as well.
Okay. On that ground, the first thing I want to look at is the challenge really that Nigeria cannot fund education. We notice that a lot of people are now building universities.
Yeah.
We equally, saw in the past, and there will still be some coming, people who have stolen billions from government. We have equally seen where, hundreds of millions are being used to buy cars, for operations that can actually be done with something lesser. We have equally seen that there have been issues by EFCC and the rest of them about stolen funds from this country running into billions of dollars. The issue of Abacha loot is just one of them. And I know that, I want to believe that even a lot of those issues associated with Abacha might not necessarily be Abacha per se. They might just use Abacha, just like what you have NDDC in Niger Delta, such that even areas that are not under Niger Delta area, because of just a caption, they are now. Abacha loot might represent maybe a phenomenon that is different from Abacha himself per se. So if we have all these situations, and a lot of these, billions are actually stolen from public treasury. So is the challenge really that of no funds or mismanagement of the funds?
Which is it?
So we need to get our priorities. It's obviously the mismanagement. Otherwise, why would somebody who has stolen hundreds of billions be told to bring 60 billion and by the next day you are giving him chief justice somewhere and all of that? These are the kind of things we find. So we have made, stealing of public funds so enticing, so interesting, because at the time you take 200 billion and you are asked to return 50 billion, you still have 150 to yourself. That is enough to live. So these are the challenges. The challenge is not about whether we have money, it's about whether those who actually manage these resources have what it takes to manage them in the interest of all. So I think the real issue is that government should see education as a right of everybody. You should see it as an investment for its own self. Because the people are eventually the instrument you need to develop your society.
Right.
And you can't have any meaningful development beyond your capacity. These ones that will keep truncating, going around the whole world in the name of foreign investment, even the foreign investors, the moment they understand your weakness, they will equally play on you. The case of a P&ID, or what do you call it, is just one of the many. If not for some interventions, that thing would have gone just like that. So there are many of these, loopholes that you find that if truly harnessed properly, Nigeria will be able to fund education adequately. But the challenge is that those at the helm of affairs don't seem to even see education as something that should be treasured. That is why you'll be talking about, now, a lot of these people who are traveling, do you know so many of them are even going on scholarship from those countries? Sometimes I wonder, do we give scholarship at all to people? Because I've not been seeing people come to study here in the name of Nigeria has given me scholarship about this. So, are there no human beings in all those places? We are so endowed and yet so poor because of this mentality of, the winner takes all. We should focus on developing our society. And the bedrock of that development is education. There's practically nothing you can do. You see, when you talk about social violence, you talk about the one you call corruption and all of that, it's a function of the human being. The moment the human being is properly nurtured, those things will be, just taken for granted. They will fizzle out. So we must focus on our educational system. Even the political system, whatever you are getting, will equally be a reflection of the entire society. So I feel strongly that Nigeria has what it takes to fund. I listened to Mr. Femi Falana the other day about how even solid mineral is being, exploited in Nigeria. People are not paying taxes. The rich don't pay taxes in Nigeria. These are the challenges we really have. Challenges of mismanagement of the funds, challenges of inability to actually address things that should be addressed. It's not a matter of whether we can fund education. We have what it takes to fund education. But are those people in position ready to do that? I think that's a real problem. So for me, the Nigerian society must rise to ensure that we address these inanities. Because when ASU was fighting, about funding of the system and all the rest, even parents were quarreling. It's always about your welfare, it's about salaries. Now their children have come in. The first time you begin to hear that is school at University of Lagos was actually asking for about 200,000 or thereabout. If not for some interventions, our UNILAG used to be one of the cheapest universities, in case you don't know.
Yes.
People just see the flamboyance of the environment and they say, UNILAG, that would be very expensive. But it's one of the cheapest. And you get, quality service. But the issue of funding is affecting everything. Now, at the time you say, okay, fund yourself, I can guarantee you that should UNILAG fix a school fees for 1 million naira, it will still have a crowd. But the challenge will be whether that crowd will have the quality. Because it will be about whoever can pay will be the one to get it. And sometimes those who might not have what it takes to pay might even be the ones that the destiny of this country rests on. So when you begin to look at the issue of who can fund or who can pay and all of that, to run a system that should produce the resources, the material, the human resource that you need to run a society, then you are simply sitting on a keg of gunpowder or digging your own grave. So
Right.
I think that's what we are going in this
Dr.
country.
Kere, we'll come back to that, pertinent issue of funding, how universities are also now looking inward and the impact on the students. But I also want to check your views on eyepiece with that of Dr. Sirajo Yakubu. So what do you think? There is an industrial court order on this issue of eyepiece that the federal government cannot bound, or rather the universities cannot be bound by the eyepiece, salary payment structure, so to speak, and yet we are still seeing this as one of the major culprits for the brain drain in the federal university system. What are your thoughts on this?
Well, court orders must be respected, especially by the government, and the government that is boasting of the rule of law. Once judiciary, judicial decisions are not respected, then it's sure that somehow somebody is above the law. In this case, government is above the law. I don't know if the decision was appealed. I don't know if it was appealed. Then of course they will continue to apply the IPPS until the final judgment. I mean the Supreme Court, if the matter has to go to the Supreme Court, decide on the matter. But I think. What the IPPS is aimed to cure actually is the creation of the government itself, because you cannot expect. I am in a private university. Let me even give you a background. I was not a teacher before. I was a civil servant working with the federal government. But at a point, I said the best way, to impact on Nigerians, especially the younger ones, with the dwindling values, moral values, and other values that we found ourselves in, is for me to teach in the university. And that's why I left. I left the civil service voluntarily. I resigned, and I joined the academia. So I'm working with the private university. I'm not affected by the IPS. But the fact is that this poor salary, you cannot expect a whole professor, who is supposed to, who are the people holding, who's the country itself is resting on their shoulders, are getting paid with a peanut, and politicians are getting lots of money, and other civil servants. If you look, you train students today. But a student today will get a job like in NNPC or other, government agencies where they pay very well, and you realize that his salary is even far better than yours. Which system or which country will do that other than Nigeria? It's because we have neglected education. So, do you want the lecturers to die? Definitely, if they are being paid a peanut, they must take part-time jobs elsewhere to complement. They have to leave. They also have children, and an educated person supposed to be seen as at the top ladder of the elites of any country. But it's not the case in Nigeria today. If you are teaching, people think that your reward should be in heaven. Yes, you are. Even if you are paid, no matter how much you are paid here, you will still be rewarded in the heaven. This is belief, because you mold other people's character. Right. You replicate, good people in others, who will become leaders. Prof. Joe said that those that are being neglected, who cannot access education, could be the one whose destiny of this country will be in hand.
All right. Let me quickly because we have limited time. Dr. Yakubu, we have very limited time. Let me just quickly ask this question. I believe both of you will be able to address them quickly. Let me begin with you, Dr. Kere. The implication of this on our educational system and what government can do to address it quickly.
Yeah, Thank you. The implication is obvious. You see, just a scenario. ASU fought to ensure that the best graduating students are retained. ASU fought for that. Now, at the point, we were actually, taking the first class graduates and the rest of them. You see, but, from outside, perhaps they used to think that the system had something so special that it was actually offering. But at the time, they came in and saw what was happening. In so many departments, almost all of them left. Almost all of them. So the impact, the consequence, what will happen is already, even from the foundation of it, known. There is no way, as I am here now, there is no way I will say my son should embrace this job. There is no way. Meanwhile, every general wants his son to be a soldier. Almost all the other, professions, they want their children to take after them. How many teachers, how many lecturers would gladly encourage their children to do their jobs? But I must let you know, as an individual, it wasn't as if I couldn't get, at least as at the time I graduated, the man who is my brother, that I live with, was the head of human resources of a bank. So it wasn't as if I was looking for a job. It was just a passion. It was a choice. It was a desire. I thought what would be able to make some impact there. But I shouldn't be doing that with an empty stomach. I should be alive to do it. Unfortunately, the system is so terrible that there are no incentives. So at the end of the day, what you get is discouragement. How do I teach other people's children when I cannot pay my child's school fees? So
addressing it from the root,
yeah.
Government, what should government do?
Government must see education as a priority.
Right.
It is something that we cannot negotiate. It's a priority. That is the only way we can move forward. Outside, if you think politicians can solve the problem of this country when the human resource, the abundant human resource, is wasting away, then obviously we are just joking.
Let's quickly go to Dr. Yakubu. Your perspective on this question. How should we address this, the implication quickly, as well as how should government tackle it from the root?
Yes, thank you very much. The impact first. You see, if the best and the brightest are leaving the country, then we leave people that are not, cannot measure up properly, and then that will affect even the training that we are giving the students. But again, government has to take this very seriously. It is losing money itself. You train, you subsidize education, you train people, and they then and they leave the country to go elsewhere to work there. The country that did not train them. Then it means that government itself is losing money. The universities are losing money. Government must see education as a priority, like Dr. Ekere said. In fact, it is the most important thing. Let me reiterate. There's nothing like education. There's nothing like education. Even if you look at from the religious angle, then there is nothing like education. Education is the foundation of everything. We must fund education properly, and the government must address corruption. Corruption is actually the major cause of our problems in Nigeria in every sector, including the educational sector. Somebody who was
Dr. Yakubu, we do not have much. We do not have that time anymore to continue this conversation, unfortunately. But we must thank you, Head of the Department of Public and International Law, Nile University, Dr. Siraju Yakubu, as well as.
But before you conclude, imagine that the president cannot write his name. Imagine that.
We all are products of.
We all are products
so
of the system.
We must address this issue.
Right. Dr. Dane Kere, lecturer from the University of Lagos, thank you so much for your time.
It's always a pleasure to be.
Gentlemen, thank you for still staying in Nigeria. We still keep hope alive that something can be done.